Hello and welcome to another BookTube video from me, Lauren from Lauren and the Books. How are you all? Are you all having a lovely Wednesday? Today I am doing a bit of an impromptu video. I've just got home, it's Tuesday night, I've just got home and sort of thought, oh, I didn't film a video on Sunday like I promised myself I would, that I'd have ready for Wednesday. And I've got no ideas in my brain as to what I will film. So what I was thinking about is, on my way into work this morning, on my way to work I have a sort of a 40-minute drive. And on my way in I thought, oh, I've got an awful lot of podcasts to listen to. And I was like, I should really try and whittle those down a bit, shouldn't I? Because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 shows. That's not even including the actual amount of episodes I've got. 15 shows worth of podcasts to listen to. And I was like, I love hearing about people's podcasts, what people's favourite podcasts are, and I thought I would use this as an opportunity to talk my way through my podcast feed and talking about the podcasts that I'm subscribed to and what I feel about them, and then maybe you guys could give me some recommendations, because clearly if I've got 15 shows worth with about 4 episodes on each, I need some more podcasts. So yeah, would be very interested in hearing your recommendations for podcasts, but let's work our way through them. So as I said, I've got 15 different podcasts here, so I want to go quicker. I want to go quick because I don't want to be spending loads and loads of time, so I'll work my way backwards. So the first one I've got on here is the Reading Women podcast, which is a fabulous podcast about women reading, hosted by our very own, BookTube's very own Kendra Winchester. I was actually a guest on Reading Women, which was wonderful, where I was talking about books about food. So I was talking about non-fiction books and fiction books about food, and just had a wonderful time. And they just read such amazing books, and I'm always really interested to hear their opinions on books and things like that. One of the episode that I've been putting off listening to, not putting off, but like making sure I have a really good session listening to it, is the episode from the 19th of September. So we're going back over a month now, about heartberries and why be happy when you could be normal, because they're talking about memoirs, and I want to read both of those memoirs, and I want to listen to that. So those are, so that's Reading Women. The next one I've got here is Late Night Women's Hour, which is hosted by Lauren Laverne. So Women's Hour is for those who don't know, it's a very widely respected and loved hour on Radio 4, BBC Radio 4 every day, where it talks about women's issues, which I very much enjoy. Now, I listen to that when I can, live, because the podcast just gets out of hand. Because it's on every single day, and some days I listen to it, in your actual subscription feed, you just end up with 17 episodes of Women's Hour before you know it. So I listen to it when I can, and if there's a particular thing they're talking about, I will catch up on it. So I'm not subscribed to it, but I am subscribed to two Women's Hour related podcasts. The first one being Late Night's Women Hour, which, as I said, is a bit more relaxed. It's hosted by a different host, and yeah, so in the most recent episodes they're talking about exercise and people being cancelled, and then the episode that came out today is about intersectionality and racist trapdoors, so very excited to listen to that. The next one I've got is the Archers Omnibus. Now I've got 4 episodes of the Archers, which goes back as far as 30th of September. The Archers is also Radio 4 related, and it is a radio soap that's been going on for, like, I think it's like 90 years. It's been going on a really long time, and it's set in the fictional town of Ambridge, which is in a fictional county of Borchester. There's a lot of farming going on there. They've got all sorts of storylines going on. Recently they've had a bit of a sort of a hit and run mystery, and then a woman died of sepsis, and at the moment, and then her widow had to deal with coming to terms with her death, and they've got all sorts going on. As I said, I haven't listened to it for almost about 3 weeks now. I need to catch up big time because I just love it and I'm really into it. Now, I would really urge people to give it a go. It takes a really long time. Like, even now, I'm coming across characters that I've not met, and I've been listening to it for, I would say, about for a year and a half, no, longer than that, like a year and 10 months, because I started listening to it the first ever time I went to visit Simon, because Simon and Chris listened to it, and I started listening to it in January 2017. So I've been going, and even now I'm coming across characters that I don't know, but I love it. I think it's amazing. I really enjoy it, and I love the storylines, and I'm really like fixated on all the characters and everything, so very much enjoy it. The next one I've got is The Fringe of It, which is a sort of chatty podcast between two female wonderful bloggers, and they did use this term, influencers. One of those is Charlotte Jacqueline, and the other one, I always forget her name because I follow Liv Purvis, because I came to it by following Charlotte Jacqueline. She used to run a magazine, an indie magazine called Betty, which is now an online blog, and I think I found it when I was like looking for like a hairstyle or something like that. She does amazing fashion, she wears such good clothes, she's really funny as well, and the podcast is really great. It's just listening to her and her friend Liv have a chat, and I just love it, and it just feels really inclusive and fun, and they always talk about what they've been watching on telly, what they've been up to, if they've bought anything recently in terms of fashion and things like that. And yeah, I just really love it, so that's a very much enjoyable. The next one I've got is the Strictly Come Dancing official podcast. Strictly Come Dancing, as you all know, is a podcast, is a TV show that I absolutely adore, that's on the run up to Christmas. It started about a month ago, where celebrities get partnered up with professional dancers and they all learn how to dance. There's a version of it basically in every country ever. I think in other countries it's called Dancing with the Stars, and I love it. And this year they've launched a podcast to run alongside it, which is really good. However, I've got about 6 bloody episodes of it. I am so far behind on. And they go behind the scenes and they have a chat with the contestants and a chat with the dancers and a chat with the judges. It's hosted by Scott Mills, who is a radio DJ for Radio 1 over here, and another woman called someone Elizabeth, I can't remember her name. Yeah, it's just really, like, if you like Strictly Come Dancing, you'll like it. If you don't, you probably wouldn't give a shit. The next one I've got is the Adam Buxton podcast. Now, David introduced me to Adam Buxton podcast. He is a comedian, a British comedian, and the first episode I came to was his interview with Louis Theroux, who he is quite good pals with, and they drank energy drinks and just absolutely lost it and started singing really mad things. And he sort of intersperses his chats with these guests with songs that he's made up, and he's just a really funny guy, and they're really nice long interviews. So you get like over an hour of a chat with really impressive people. So for instance, here we've got David Sedaris and Desiree Birch, the last 2 episodes that I haven't listened to, so yeah, would very much recommend that as well. Then I'm on to episode 2 of the new series of Serial, which is one of the first ever podcasts I listened to, I think one of the first ever podcasts I listened to, aside from the Russell Brand podcast, which was an all-time fave, was Serial, and we're into the 3rd season of Serial, and I'm quite into it. It's about the American justice system. It follows a courthouse, and oh, I've just started playing it. So it follows a courthouse. I've started playing it again. And different cases that the courthouse is that are happening in the courthouse at that time, and yeah, it introduces you to some judges that work there, to some people who work on the defence team and things like that, and some of the cases that they're looking into, and I find it very interesting. However, I am only I've listened to 1 episode and I think I'm like 5 minutes into the next episode, but I will continue with that, and I've been very much enjoying it. The next one is The High Low, which is a podcast run by Dolly Alderton, and I always forget her name, Pandora Sykes. Yes, who are 2 journalists, 2 female journalists, and they talk about all sorts of different, just current affairs, basically. So the most recent episode I listened to, they were talking about the Strictly Come Dancing drama that's been going on. But the next episode is why 1/3 of Generation Z don't drink, and how feelings took over the world. And they talk about things that have been going on, things that they've been, like a lot of media they've been consuming, so other podcasts. That's how I found out about West Cork, books they've been reading, articles online they've been reading, television programmes they've been watching, and things like that. So that's another place that I get a lot of recommendations from The High Low. The next one is also Women's Hour related. As I said, there was a few Women's Hour related podcasts on here. This one is Fortunately with Fee and Jane. Now, Fee and Jane are 2 of the hosts of Women's Hour, and this is them sort of, it's still BBC related, so it's not as naughty as they could be, but it's sort of like after school club of Women's Hour, where they're just sat in the cafeteria where they record Women's Hour, and just having a giggle and sort of like accosting people that will walk past them, guests and things like that, and just having a chat with them. And yeah, it's just really nice to like listen into a real firm woman's friendship and hear them have a real giggle about stuff, whilst also still discussing quite important topics. And I really love and admire the pair of them, and they're completely different to their Woman's Hour personas. They're very professional on that, but whereas unfortunately they're just having a complete laugh, and I really love it. The next one is one that I haven't actually listened to. However, I did get an email from the people that are running it, and it is My Life in Books by The Telegraph. Now, this has only just launched, and the first episode is Louis de Bernier, and from what I understand is it is each individual episode is going to be about a particular author or a book, and go into details about that. So the first episode is Louis de Bernier. I can see it's 45 minutes long, and it just says here, so it's just got bits in a lively and unusually revealing conversation. Louis de Bernier speaks to The Telegraph's Laura Powell about his successes, his struggles, and the 3 books that have most profoundly shaped him. So it sounds a bit like the BBC Bookish podcast that I very much enjoy, so I'm looking forward to reading that, listening to that. The next one is a relatively new one. I think I found out about this, I think Jenny from Jenny King, who had a booktube channel, but I also really love her blog, recommended this, and that is Desert Island Dishes. So if you've listened to Desert Island Discs, that gets celebrities on, and they talk about the 7 records that they would take away with them if they were to go to a desert island. And this is a similar twist on things. This is a similar format, but they talk about their 7 favourite dishes. So it would be like the last dish they'd had before the last dish they had before they went onto the desert island, a dish that reminded them of their childhood, their favourite meal they've ever eaten, and things like that. And it has really good guests on it. At the moment, I've just listened to the Prue Leith one, who is a judge on the Great British Bake Off, and Rosemary Schrager is the next episode I've got to listen to, so very good. Then the next thing I've got is My Dad Wrote a Porno. I've got 5 episodes of My Dad Wrote a Porno to catch up on. I am like up to date in terms of I'm on series 4. If you haven't listened to it, it really is funny, and I do think that the earlier episodes are the best. I still enjoy listening to it now, and I wouldn't stop listening to it, but I definitely think the earlier episodes are the best. And it's about a guy, Jamie, and his friends James and Alice, and Jamie's dad wrote a porn, an erotica novel, and he is reading it out to his friends, and they're sort of critiquing it. It is hilarious. The novel itself is just bonkers. Those 3 as a threesome are just hilarious together. I shouldn't really use the term threesome when talking about erotica, but yeah, it's just so much fun, and like there's been a lot of hype about it. I imagine a lot of people have heard about it, but I really find it hilarious. The next one I've got is another one of my favourites. It's Table Manners, which is a podcast, another foodie podcast by Jessie Ware and her mother. Jessie Ware is a musician from the UK. She's amazing. She's got fantastic hair as well. Her and her mother are Jewish, and they have people round for dinner, celebrities, and they would talk to celebrities. So some of my favourite people that have been on there have been Sam Smith. They recently had Nigella Lawson, which is just amazing. They've had Will Young, who's another one of my faves, George Ezra. That was a really good episode. And yeah, they just have people around and they feed them, and so like sometimes it's like Jewish dishes, and sometimes it's other stuff, and yeah, they just have a really good chat, and it's just really lovely, and yeah, it's just really fun, and again, very inclusive. So I'm very into sort of like an inclusive podcast. The next one is so I've got 2 more, and this next one is one of my new favourites, and I've actually just bought the book of it today, and that is Feminists Don't Wear Pink with Scarlett Curtis. So Scarlett Curtis has recently written a book called Feminists Don't Wear Pink, where she's collated a series of essays from all sorts of different people: Jamila Jamil, Zoe Sugg, I'm trying to think of other people that have in it, Helen Fielding, who wrote Bridget Jones's Diary, Gemma Arterton, have collated myths about feminism and written little short essays about them. I'm really looking forward to reading that. However, this podcast is sort of embellishment on that, where she interviews some of the people. So today I was listening to Gemma Arterton. She's had Jamila Jamil on there. She's had Saoirse Ronan. She's also written an essay. So the podcast is like yeah, like an extended version of the essay that they've written, and she's just very interested, and she gets really good results from her interviewees, and I just very much enjoyed it. And then the last one I've got here, which is the BBC Radio 4 podcast for books and authors. So this is the Radio 4's Bookish podcast. Now there are sort of certain different episodes within this show, and one of my favourite ones are a good read, where the host gets 2 celebrities on, and they all pick a book and they read it, and then they chat about it in 10 minutes, and it's really fun because I get a lot of there's a lot of books on there I wouldn't read but I love to hear about. There's a lot of books on there that I've read and I like hearing people talk about, and then I get some recommendations from there and stuff like that. So very enjoyable. So those are the podcasts that I've recently been listening to. I feel like I've maybe managed to do that in less than 15 minutes, who knows. those are the podcasts that I've been listening to recently and very much enjoying. What podcasts do you guys listen to? What are your favourite podcasts? Would love to hear them. I really like podcasts that are feminism or female based. I love food podcasts and I love bookish podcasts. So yeah, those are some of my favourite podcasts that I've been listening to recently. Podcast. You know when you say a word so much it doesn't actually mean anything anymore? That's what I've done with the word podcast. Would love to hear from you guys what your favourite podcasts are, and I will see you all again soon for another BookTube video. Goodbye!